Hello, everybody. My name is Angel Casper, and I'm going to be talking to you today about overcoming communications challenges within public relations, specifically within the dairy industry, through a communication accommodation theories lens. So, some of the research that I did for this is I interviewed Julie Sweeney, who is from Farm First Dairy Cooperative in Madison, Wisconsin, and she's the director of communications and marketing. So, she does a lot of the public relations type things along with a marketing side to it. I also looked up the definition of public relations specialist job, which is the career type that I want to go into and why I chose this topic to research. And a public relations specialist is sometimes referred to as a media specialist or a communications specialist and acts as an advocate for clients who wish to build and maintain a positive relationship with the public. And this is something that I am very passionate about and have also been involved in through my own personal experiences. And I currently serve as a South Dakota State dairy ambassador. And through this, I'm able to communicate with multiple different consumers, industry leaders, and attend many conferences and events where I get to have these conversations with people in a more public relations type way, which is the thing that introduced me into the career field that I want to be in, which is pretty exciting. Along with this, I'm also a dairy producer and grew up on a dairy farm, so I have that background knowledge and have had those experiences within the dairy industry that I can apply to my future career. So some of the pain points within this career or within this industry are the multiple questions that we get asked as public relations type leaders. So by this I mean sometimes consumers ask us questions that are very simple and easy to answer, and sometimes consumers ask us questions that are a little harder to answer than we think. So questions such as, hey, where does chocolate milk come from? Compared to a question like, when you shear the meat off of a cow, how long does it take for it to grow back? And being able to answer those in a positive way within the industry is very important, which I'll relate to more a little bit later in the PowerPoint. Another thing is the multitude of different personalities that we work with on a daily basis. Sometimes we have people that are very shy come up and ask us questions, and to really pull out what they mean is sometimes difficult. We also have a lot of people that come up to us very angry about something or very fired up or very passionate about something. And we have to ensure that we talk to them in a manner that is going to be positive for both parties, but doing it in a way that we're still able to educate them as well, which can sometimes be a really big challenge within the industry. And then the last pain point that I have is the negative views of the dairy industry. We've all seen them where PETA or different organizations will post something about the dairy industry saying farmers abuse their cattle, or we kill baby calves, or we take calves away from their mothers. Things like this, which creates a really big negative image over the dairy industry and what we really stand for. So being able to overcome that is really important. So why is this important? There's a disconnect between consumers and producers. People no longer understand how their food gets from farm to table, mostly because a lot of these individuals are generations removed from the farm. So taking the time to help bridge this gap is really important. And again, I'll get to this later in my presentation. Another reason this is important is the misunderstanding of the industry. Going back to those negative views, people see the dairy industry as negative because we take calves away from their mothers or things like that. And being able to take this and educate them on why we do that or why it's important, and being able to accommodate ourselves to the questions that we're being asked to help bridge that gap and to ensure that people are understanding what's going on in our industry, because it's scary when you don't know something, especially something as important as food, when you don't know where it's coming from or how it's produced. That can be very scary to a lot of individuals. And I know for myself, that can be scary to me as well. Also, bad views taken away from conversations. So if people have a conversation with a farmer, and even though he may mean well, it can be taken as in a bad way if it's portrayed in a certain way. So making sure that we're not giving out bad views and we're actually taking the time to understand what the consumer's asking and being able to help them understand how our industry works and why we do what we do. So some of the solutions that I have are understanding the questions that are asked. So taking the time to break down the question and ask more questions from it. So say somebody asks about the nutrients within milk. They may not completely know how to ask the real question that they're asking. So being able to break down, well, what do you mean by this? Are you talking about the nutrient value in it? Are you talking about the difference between the nutrients value between the different types of milk? And asking them to explain more and creating that relationship with them to be able to, one, better relate with them as a person, two, have that conversation and build that relationship, and three, better be able to understand their communication styles so I can adjust myself to better be able to communicate in a way that they're going to understand and be most comfortable with, which kind of leads into adjusting to the different personality types and knowledge levels. You wouldn't talk to a 5-year-old the same way you would talk to their parents. So being able to adjust who you're talking to and how you're stating things, and doing it in a way that you're not going to make somebody feel dumb about the question they asked, or about their knowledge level within the industry. Because if I went up to a scientist and asked him a question, one, I wouldn't know where to start to get the information that I'm wanting. And two, sometimes we ask stupid questions because we really don't know the answer. And to us, they're not stupid. But to the person that we're asking them to, it's important that they don't make us feel like our knowledge level is minuscule. So taking that time to really engage with them and have that conversation with them and make them feel like what they're asking is truly important to you. Which Julie Sweeney made a really good comment during our interview. Sometimes you have individuals that want to have a conversation with you and want to pick your brain, and sometimes individuals want a quick and short answer. It's important to be able to gauge this from person to person because it could be the difference between a good view and a bad view of our industry, which is so important overall, because if you have a person that wants a quick answer and you're taking 30 minutes to give them an answer, they're going to be very frustrated and feel like you're wasting their time, compared to somebody that if they want to sit and pick your brain for an hour, and sometimes it might take a while to really understand the question that they're wanting answered, and you only take 10 minutes to talk to them, they're going to feel like dairy industry leaders don't care. So overall, taking that time to really apply yourself and really understand what they're looking for. So the theory that I chose to apply is communication accommodation theory. And this is the constant movement towards or away from others by changing your communication behavior, which is from Griffin et al. People will try and adjust or accommodate their styles of speaking to others. It's a very natural thing that we do as human beings, which we also use divergence and convergence. And divergence is when you have a strong ethnic, racial pride, or very strong passion in something, and you try to highlight that group's identity. So sometimes you can be very overpowering in a sense. And convergence occurs when you have a strong need for social approval, or you are frequently seen as more of a powerless type individual, which I don't believe that that's always true, but within the dairy industry, I think as producers and going into the public relations field, I feel like this theory is the one that really applies to having those conversations with people, because many producers might take that divergent style and that can scare consumers away, and that can make them feel like we believe we're better than everybody else in a sense. Um, but being too convergent is in a sense being minuscule, and you're continually trying to find that approval. So trying to find that good in between of, you know, your knowledge, but you still want to ensure that you're finding that place with consumers and creating that relationship with them. And we do this a lot through body language, changing our communication style to better fit the individual that you're talking to. So somebody that might be more shy, you know, making sure that you're not being too upfront, or making sure that you're coming off in a manner that's very respectful to that consumer, because that can scare them away and leave them with a bad image. So really applying this theory and being able to adjust how you communicate with people, because nobody's the same. Nobody is going to communicate the same way. Nobody is going to have the same exact question every single time. So being able to adjust yourself and really immerse yourself within that conversation with the person to understand what they're looking for. So some of the implications that I chose was consumer accommodation and industry accommodation. And I feel like both of these are very important. With consumer accommodation, we want to be able to accommodate ourselves to the consumer's needs and what they're asking, and having those conversations with them, which I've talked about throughout this entire PowerPoint. You know, asking those questions, creating those relationships, things like that. Within the industry accommodation, we need to really accommodate ourselves as industry leaders. So making sure that we're not using big dairy lingo to have a conversation with people. So we're not talking about dry cows and fresh cows and TMRs and distillers grain and like different things like that. Or if we do, we're breaking it down for them so they understand it in a way that they can leave the conversation feeling educated about what they just learned, which is so important overall with communication. So now what? What does all of this mean? So if we accommodate how we talk to consumers, it helps us to better adjust our message to positively relay our stories within the dairy industry. If we take the time to do this and the time to talk to people, we're going to have a better impact overall. We have a lot of this negative impact coming from people all around, within PETA and different online sources, and it's so much easier to see that stuff nowadays. So taking the time to accommodate ourselves to consumers and relay our stories and experiences is going to leave them feeling like they understand the dairy industry better, and leave us feeling like we were able to make an impact on them, but be able to share our stories and our passion for this industry. So in conclusion, I'm advocating for a change within the dairy industry and being proud of the roots that I come from, but also using this theory to accommodate myself to how I'm talking to others, and using it all around to help consumers feel like they leave a conversation more educated than what they came. Thank you.